Ben Knight, welcome to the Empire Builders podcast. Your business has exploded in the last 12 to 18 months. But I see a lot of people get stuck. How come it's been different for you?
Thank you for that, by the way. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, an easy answer for me is the people I surround myself with. 100%. So, it all kicked off for me, like the start of getting momentum and stuff, because I joined Mastermind.
Yeah.
Surround myself with people who are doing more, believing more was possible, proving that more was possible. So, it just pushed me to do more. Since I moved up through the levels, I've then upgraded my network as well.
Makes sense. Cool. Yeah. So I've upgraded through the levels. I'm about to achieve ultimate, whatever it's called.
Yeah. But essentially, knowing a lot more people, even just at events and things like that.
Yeah.
I think if everyone around you is doing more, you haven't got a choice but to do more.
Yeah. Yeah. People surround yourself with who you become. And I see, I follow you on Instagram. Hopefully you follow me back.
I do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I follow you on Instagram. I see that you're always out at events, networking. I think you went to Marbella recently. Was Marbella recently? One of my favourite places in the world. Funnily enough, me and my wife were only talking about it this morning. Like you're putting yourself in environments and around the right people. I think that's critical. 18 months ago, if I remember correctly, you were coaching one-on-one. You were coaching business owners how to trade the stock market in as little as 5 minutes a day. There you go. Nice little plug for your tagline. So what's changed over that 18-month period, other than the people you surround yourself with? Because you're not just coaching people one-on-one now. You couldn't have got the business the size it is if you were just coaching one-on-one. So how's the business model changed?
So the first step was understanding my value. I was very much undervaluing my services, which I think a lot of business owners do at the start.
How badly were you undervaluing yourself or your services? Like, give us a flavour.
I think at one point I had a course that would literally set you up for life financially. It would cost about £97.
Oh, yeah, of course. By the way, you know what's funny about that? Not only are you worth way more than that, of course, the knowledge, the expertise you've got is worth way more than that. It's not even that it's worth more. It's that if someone said to me, I'm going to give you everything you possibly need to be financially free for life for 97 quid or $97, I'd be like, that can't be it. That can't be true. It can't be real. So in order to actually validate the promise, it has to carry a relevant price tag. So you were like, was it £97 or dollars? Not that it really matters.
Pounds. It was pounds.
Okay. It was £97 for a course. And what would they get in that course?
It was actually an online video course.
Okay.
So at least it wasn't too much of my time. But I know this now. It's the same. It takes the same effort to sell something for £5,000 as it did for.
And so now, current business, back then, online course, 97 quid. And I think you were doing some one-on-one coaching as well. Yeah. What were the rates or fees for that?
It was about £400 for 3 months.
Oh, yeah, of course. But you know what the funny thing is? You're teaching people how to work financially free. You can't get financially free on 400 quid for 3 months. So that's kind of where it was. And, there's probably people listening to this, watching this that can relate, that going, that's kind of where I'm pricing my products and services right now. So what's the core offering now? What's the business model look like these days?
So still got the one-to-one and a group program. So the one-to-one is 6K plus VAT for 3 months.
Okay.
And again, the strategy that will make you money for the rest of your life, less than 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And then the group program is 2.5 plus that. Again, for 3 months, just more structure.
Yeah. And by the way, look, that's, I hope everyone who's listening to this, watching this, gets where I'm coming from. That does not mean that, you are wrong or bad for, undercharging. And to a degree, right now, you're probably still undercharging to an extent. And, for me, the name of the game is like incremental increases over time. And, when I look at our fees for people joining our masterminds, they've more than quadrupled in the last probably 5-6 years. Are they 4 or 5 times better than they were? Probably not. But it's not really about the quality of the product or service, the fee or the investment or the amount of money somebody pays for it. It's really about juggling your capacity and your desire to deliver the service with the price point. It's really just a simple equation of supply and demand. And for us, if our masterminds were what they were 5 or 6 years ago in terms of investment, we wouldn't have the infrastructure to support the volume of clients we've got. And so we wouldn't do a very good job of it. So I think you've got to always, there's more to it than just charge more. Always, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing to consider with charging more is you attract a different type of person.
Yes.
A higher quality client, so to speak, ones that actually want the results and are actually easier to deal with.
Yeah. And I think that when you earn £97 for an online course or £400 for 3 months of coaching, I couldn't say it without smiling. Back then, you still had immense value to offer and to add. The people that purchased wanted the result. Mm-hmm. They say they want the result.
Yeah.
And they did. They believe they want the result. The question is, and when you talk about the quality of the client that you attract, that's not to say that some people are good, some people are bad, some people are better than others. They're just different. And I think you, like me, like most people, would prefer to work with a client or would prefer to attract a customer who is willing to do the work and is fully committed. And the fact is, the more somebody pays, the more they're likely to pay attention. Not just in terms of having a coach to help them be a better investor or have somebody work with them on their business growth strategy, but even a product. The more you pay for a product, the more likely you are to use that product. Like if you pay, I've got another question for you in a minute around what you like to spend your money on. I know you're a bit like me. You like to spend money on clothes and stuff. But like if you spend 600 quid plus on a pair of trainers, you are going to wear those trainers because if you didn't, it'd be a waste of money. Now, the funny thing is, will you wear them as much as a 60 quid pair of trainers? Probably not, but because you want them to last longer, right? So you value them more. You'll look after them better. Mm-hmm. I guarantee when you're wearing them 600 quid trainers, you're cleaning them like crazy. Football, You're not playing football in them. You're cleaning them after every wear, all these things, right? Because you value them more. So you're more likely to look after them. In the same way that somebody pays you more for your course or for 3 months worth of coaching, they're more likely to value it, show up on time, consume all the content, actually implement, and therefore get the result. Get value for money. So why do you think so many people get stuck? Since your business is, we've talked about this privately, I'm sure you wouldn't mind me sharing, more than 10x in the space of 18 months. So why do you think so many people get stuck and don't have that same speed of growth that you've had?
I think there's two things. I think people greatly underestimate the amount of commitment and discipline it takes.
Yes. To
build a business.
So what I think you're saying is people have an unrealistic expectation of how easy or hard it's going to be.
Yeah. In terms of just day-to-day activities, nothing like you need to be super talented or anything like that. I don't believe that's true. I think it's being able to show up every day. I think you've said it before about managing your personal state is crucial.
Well, what I always say is running a business is probably the greatest personal development experience you're ever going to have because it will challenge you in ways that you'd never thought possible before. The other bit to that, which I don't talk about as much, there's actually two things that will be the greatest personal development challenge or experience. One's running a business. The other is living in harmony with a significant other. Like actually living under one roof, creating a family together, all of that is that is going to stretch and challenge you, and it's going to fire off all your patterns and triggers and emotions and all that stuff. But yeah, I think you're right. I think people underestimate how hard it is.
And the other thing I would say, because I said there was the second thing, would be call it shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
In that there's so many opportunities out there and they all work.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But they only work if you work at them.
Yeah. It's distraction really, isn't it?
Yes.
It's distraction. I think those two things are very closely linked because the more the easier it is for you to be distracted, the more likely that you're going to underestimate how focused, how difficult it might be. You know what I think? I think a lot of the reason why people have an unrealistic expectation of how difficult or hard it might be, I think these days, like people are given stuff on a plate. I mean, you're a lot younger than me. How old are you?
28.
28. So you're 12 years younger than me. I think we're in a world where, like, medals are being given out at school for like 7th and 8th and 9th place. And I'm all for inclusivity. I'm all for, involving people of different skills and different aptitudes in different areas, giving everyone the chance to win and succeed. But ultimately, as soon as you grow up and you get into the real world, you are not going to get it all given to you on a plate. You ain't going to get any medals for 7th or 8th place. And I think because of that, and I think that's probably been more common, certainly since I left school, which would have been late 90s, 2000. That's how old I am. I've got Jav behind the camera here. How old are you? I mean, I feel like such an old fart here in this room with you two. You know what's funny? It used to be me back in the day. It used to be me was the young guy on stage or on camera, and yeah, here I am now being the old miserable fart. No, but I think since the kind of 2000s plus, that kind of everything given to on a plate or celebrating mediocrity has become more normalised, and I do think that gives people an unrealistic expectation. The other thing is that the social media world now makes everything look really easy.
Yes.
And you see whoever you might follow on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever platform you're on, you see all the success, and it looks easy, and it looks like, laptop lifestyle and champagne and cocktails on the beach, but no one sees the work that goes on behind the scenes. And I think that's misleading.
Absolutely. And I think it ties back into the point of so many distractions and everything like that. Like, I know you and I talk a lot about the webinar funnel, like how to utilize them. That's the big thing that made the shift for me when I joined Mastermind. If I think how many webinars I've done, like so many now. And
how many do you reckon?
I don't know.
Well, 18 months. Let's work out roughly.
Yeah,
how often do you do them?
2 a month, but at the moment. But then before, it was like I was doing some weekly ones. I was doing a lot. So
you're probably 50 plus.
Yeah, easy,
webinars.
Easy. Yeah.
So and my guess is that if you have you got the recording of one of your first ones?
I do. So
you should watch it. I want to watch it, because if you look at your first webinar or 2 or 3 versus now, I bet the difference is night and day. Well, but that's the work. And whereas a lot of people, what they will do is they'll test something, whether it's a webinar or whether it's doing something on social media or whether it's a podcast or whatever it might be. And if they don't get the result and the benefit straight away, they give up or write it off as that doesn't work for me. And you probably could have done that in your first webinar or 2, and you wouldn't have got to webinar 50, and you wouldn't have more than 10x your business over 18 months.
Yeah, I think the dangerous thing actually with these is when you do get the result the first time.
Yeah.
Because then your expectations are really high. I mean, my first webinar, 6x the business in my first month of Mastermind, right?
Yeah.
With that first webinar, I was like, oh my goodness, jackpot, this is easy.
Yeah.
Doesn't always do that every month, but you've got to stick with it throughout that.
I think sometimes the biggest gift is being humbled.
Yes.
Like the biggest gift is doing the first one, 6x your business, because you'd never done a webinar before and sold in that environment where you can make multiple sales at once. And then the biggest humbling or the best experience actually, didn't feel like it at the time, would have been get no sales.
Yeah.
You've had that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the later ones as well, which is when you think you're getting better and then bam.
Mate, check this out. I spoke at an event last week. There was, Jav, how many people were at the sales and closing certification last week? 20? Yeah. 27 people, 0 sales. Mate, I was humbled.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, I did the presentation I normally do. I wasn't 100%. I was literally, Gav knows, because we were filming a podcast, and then we stopped midway through the podcast episode, and he went, I've just had a message pop up. I think you're supposed to be at the dentist in 10 minutes. Like, shit, I got. So I went to the dentist, I go, is it going to be a serious thing? And she was like, well, yeah, we're going to have to numb you up. And I was like, oh, I thought it was just like a little routine thing. And she's like, no, we need to numb you up. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a bit tight. I'm on stage in like 2 hours. And she goes, look, she went, we can reschedule. I was like, I'm here now. Just go for it. So they numb me up. The numbing agent didn't take. So like, she's like drilling and it's killing me. I'm like, that has not worked. She was like, oh, I better put some more in. So she like doubles up on the numbing agent. So I get on stage 2 hours later. I'm like spitting. I'm like, I can't feel my gum or my tongue or anything. Anyway, I think I got away with it. I did tell them at the start, I went, look, if I spit on you, it's because I've just been in the dentist chair an hour ago. But made no sales. I don't think it was related to the fact that I was numb around the mouth. I don't think you could tell. But yeah, humbling experience. Sometimes it's the best thing that can happen to us.
Absolutely.
Because it makes you appreciate the successes a hell of a lot more.
And you don't get complacent then.
Yeah, for sure. So you just mentioned like one of the big shifts for you. What I would say, or what I call it, is switching from a one-to-one model of gaining clients and serving clients to a one-to-many model. Mm-hmm. So, essentially you were, I think before, speaking to people one at a time and then selling into a program, which you then delivered one person at a time. And then you switched to webinars where you could speak to many people at once, make many sales at once, and delivery in group format. Mm-hmm. What were in that kind of rapid growth period, what were the biggest priorities you focused on in the business? What was the majority of your time spent on doing?
Definitely, it was the delivery.
Right.
So obviously there was a lot going on in terms of like now having to market a webinar, a lot of sales to make and things like that. But a webinar lends itself to that, right? Like you said, one to many. If you've got 30 people on a webinar, you're having 30 sales calls at once.
Yes.
That's the reality of it, which is great. But what quickly became apparent was the more clients you get, the harder it is to serve them.
Yeah.
So I realized a lot of my time was going to there. I was coaching, even up till not too long ago, like 6 hours a day, every single day.
That's intense, man.
It's a lot. Yeah, it takes a lot out of you. And that's obviously not sustainable, but I don't regret that because it's a necessary evil for growth. But I had to focus on the delivery because I thought if my product gets worse, the word of mouth is going to come back and bite me.
Yeah, I think it's probably the great opportunity, but also the great danger in the kind of culture, the social media world that we live in, is like bad news spreads a lot more quickly than good news. So you only have to, let a client or two down and like that will spread like wildfire.
Particularly in my industry. It's got a bad name anyway, so I'm very aware of that. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of people that have been in the teaching stock market investing for a long time. Certainly, since my early days in this industry, 15, 20 years ago, there were people running seminars and, not necessarily online courses then, but running seminars and workshops about trading the stock market. Let's talk a little bit about investing, because obviously this is your bag. You spoke a bit about this at Expert Empires recently, and shared some exercises and some things that I think our audience really loved. I'm also, it's become a bit of a kind of passion of mine as well more recently. I'm actually listening to the Tony Robbins audiobook, Money, Mastering the Game, at the moment. Talks a lot about asset allocation. So I'm really getting into that. Obviously, you're a stock market guy. Mm-hmm. So what's your view, or what are your views on asset allocation, on how much of your wealth, how much of your pot should you put in stocks or stock market versus any other asset class?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because although I am obviously mainly in stocks, I have a property business as well, which I don't really talk about. But I hate property from something I've learned. It's a thankless task, I would say. You only hear from people when something goes wrong. Yeah. Stocks don't do that, which is quite nice for me. Don't have bad tenants in stocks. But I think the reason I favour stocks as well, rather than maybe let's say Forex or crypto, other than that, I just get it. Like I know what a business does, I know what they sell. Like it just makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. So I've always quite enjoyed that.
Well, and there's a lesson in that as well. Like I certainly believe that you should stick to what you know.
Yeah.
And stick with what you're good at. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't diversify a little bit. But it'd be foolish for me, who, by the way, doesn't get the stock market, it'd be foolish for me to put 80% of my wealth into stocks because I don't really get it. I don't understand it. I've got a small amount of my wealth in stocks, which is also just, it's not based upon me trading day in, day out. So I don't really know what I'm doing or what I'm looking for. It's based upon me investing in a fund which tracks, for example. So I think that's a smart play, is like, do what you really know.
Yeah.
And so, if you don't know anything about the stock market and you want to get into it, learn it. Someone like Ben's the best person to teach you. But certainly don't just go diving in without any education, right?
Which is what everyone does, right? They get sold the dream online that, this is easy, trading's easy. It's just not true. It can be simple if you learn it, but like anything, it's like a lot of people sign up for a course or watch a video on YouTube, and then they start with they put some money away and like trying to, that's like kicking a football for the first time and then expecting to play in the Premier League next weekend. Like, it's just nuts. Yeah. But when it comes to money, people don't get that because we're not taught that.
Makes sense. Well, and again, coming back to the education system and, 7th and 8th place medals, I also feel the same about money. I'm like, no one teaches this at school. And, I'm becoming, more and more, I've spent most of my life studying success in various different areas. But I'm probably getting more interested in how money works, how the economy works now, more so than I've ever been. But yeah, I feel like it's something that really should be taught more in schools, more to us all at a younger age, because it's a massive source of pain for most people, let's face it. So yeah, you've talked a little bit about, obviously you're mostly stocks, got a property business as well, although you hate property. What other assets would you recommend people get into? Or you, by the way, don't feel like you have to answer that. Are you just, I'd do this in stocks and property and that's it?
I do have some money in Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah.
As long-term plays that I'm not looking at, 10 years, whatever happens, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But that's a small amount.
Yeah.
Maybe let's say 5%.
Yeah.
Because even though it has the potential to do well, I don't understand it as much as the others. So I'd say it's directly proportional to how much I understand it to asset allocation.
Which is smart. That makes a lot of sense. You are a smart investor, a smart young man when it comes to investing, but you do like to splash out a bit. What has been your biggest extravagance in terms of something you've purchased?
It's got to be the car.
You reckon the car?
It has to be the car.
It's a monster, man. We're recording this in my office. If you're listening, then you can't see us, but we're sat in my office. And when Ben arrives at our office, it's him because you can hear it pull up onto the car park. What car have you got for everyone who's listening?
A Mustang.
It is an absolute monster. But I do think it's important to talk a little bit about something that I've learned in the Tony Robbins audiobook, is about having your different kind of like buckets, as he calls it. And he goes, yes, you want your kind of safety bucket, which is where you would purchase assets that are very low risk, but probably not massive return either, but they're steady. You've got your high risk, high return bucket, and then you've got your dream bucket. And I think a lot of us don't appropriately split out our wealth into these three buckets. I think a lot of people put it all in the dream bucket and spend it and then have nothing in the other two. Some people go too safe and then you can't really get any kind of growth and you'll never be financially free doing that. And equally, and this is probably more my pattern over the years, I would put a lot in the high risk, high return bucket, which sometimes pays off and you go, wow, hey, what a win, but unlikely it's going to pay off consistently over time. And so I think it's about diversifying or splitting your wealth between those three buckets. And by the way, you get to decide, I get to decide, everyone gets to decide what portion of their wealth they put into the three. I mean, when I was in my 20s, it all went in the dream bucket. It was fast cars, expensive gear, luxury holidays, but it was only that. I'm fortunate that I get to do a lot of those things now, but that's only a portion that goes into the dream bucket, as it were, rather than everything that goes into the dream bucket.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I think you touched on a point there. Time is a massive factor in that, like how much time you do have. Because when you're younger, like I don't have kids, I don't have so I don't have the responsibilities. So for me, taking the bigger risks makes sense. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I lose it, and then I've got the next 4 years to get it back. Like, it doesn't seem like a risk. Yeah. Whereas when you've got a lot more on your plate, a lot more responsibilities, you do have to be a bit more careful with it. But I think it's how you utilize those items as well. Like, we joke about the car and that, but I bought that for a very specific reason. Like, I said to myself, I will not buy that until I hit 6 figures in my business, a profit, and that drove me to it.
Yeah,
like that.
Well, and that was also, I suppose you've got the discipline that said you didn't buy it until you reached that milestone. And I think a lot of times, we live in a culture, a society where people want that instant gratification. And that's actually certainly, I think, prevents more people from having the success they want financially. You teach people how to trade the stock market in as little as 5 minutes a day. How is it possible to do it in such a short amount of time? Because that sounds, by the way, it sounds too good to be true. Let me play devil's advocate. It's if anyone's listening to this, they go, that sounds a bit too good to be true. So like, explain.
Yeah, it's actually really simple. It's because I cut out all the fluff. People love to sound more intelligent than they really are. They love to, fluff things up, put a lot of complexity in it. And when you actually cut that back, there's actually not much to it. As long as you're focusing on the right things. Kind of like business, I guess. You can make a business as complicated as you like. Yeah. You have all these different funnels, different campaigns, all these different... Whereas if you had one business, you do one group of people you're aiming for, one product, you can make it very simple. And that's kind of the approach I take to trading. Like, I don't want to be spending all day in front of my screen watching
analysing charts and all that stuff.
I've done that life. That was horrible. Like, I hated that. So when you do cut out all the rubbish and like, I actually only need this, this, and this, it becomes very simple. But not to poo-poo the industry, but people sell things that are a lot more complicated because then you need them. Then you need to keep signing up for their stuff.
Yeah, of course. And I think, what you've done really, really well is you've put together like a 3-month, what was a course and coaching program, that's a group program, which basically gives all the tools that you need in 3 months. And then it's up to the individual as to how they go and implement that. But I think the only way you can teach it all in 3 months and do it in less than 5 minutes a day is by really simplifying it. And I think you do that really well. I think, I've tried to do a similar thing with how you run a business. Look, there's loads of little complexities around how you run a business, but ultimately, if you get a few core things right, if you understand the core principles first, then, it becomes a lot easier. That I talk a lot about, we mentioned it earlier, your ability to manage your mental, your emotional state, and how important that is in being successful in business. Not being a big trader myself, I suspect it's the same in trading. Like, being able to manage your mental and emotional state is quite important. I think the whole market is based on fear and greed, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you manage your mental and emotional state as a trader and as a business person?
Simple. So especially with trading, very easy. Just have a step-by-step strategy that you have to follow. Like, the reason it takes less than 5 minutes a day is because it's just, I do this, then this, then this. There's no thinking involved. There's no, I feel like this is going to happen. I feel like that. You've got to get rid of that. You've got to remove the emotion, or you will make mistakes like people do. When you take that into your business, I've found the best way to do that is through other people holding me accountable. So whether that's a team, whether that's a business partner, whatever it may be, in that if they're keeping you grounded, like, you said you would do this today, you need to do this. It's not like, it's easy to be the ideas guy and just go up in all directions. But if you have that thing that's like, you are doing this step is this step is this, I find that's really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that having a team, we've got 25 full-time people in our team now. It's the greatest accountability that I could have, because it'd actually be really easy for me to get distracted, to change things, to like test new stuff out. But I kind of can't, because I've got this team of people that are relying upon me to keep the ship on a steady course. So actually it's same Same with like, I talk about a lot, having structure in your business and having a rhythm of leading and managing the different priorities in your business and leading the people. I have to do that in a very structured way. So it's, the same meetings that happen every week, every month, every quarter, every year. Now it'd be easy for me to go, oh, actually don't want to do that anymore, going to change. But because we've got a team that expect a certain structure, then it keeps me on course. So I do think that that's certainly true. What about before you're at the stage where you've got a team? How did you get the accountability then?
So that's interesting. I was about to say, it leads back to one of your first questions about like, how do you stay disciplined and stuff at the start? For me, it was very much about the goals. So the things like the car and stuff, having that as like I need to get there. Like, and anything that's going to distract me from that is wrong. That was helpful.
And by the way, like, you are a, what did you say, 28-year-old man. So, like, this is generalization, but, for you, the goal of getting 6 figures in your business so you can purchase a nice car was a big deal. But, somebody might not like cars or be motivated by that, and they could have something completely different. They could have, taking their family on holiday to somewhere they've always dreamed of going, or it could even be, when I've achieved X result, I'm going to invest this much money in this asset and buy a buy-to-let property or something, whatever's meaningful or important. It could be, I'm going to donate X amount of money to my favorite charity. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be, cars and stuff. Everyone's different, right?
But it has to be something that
it's
truly
meaningful
want.
to you.
Like you truly, because I find this again with like cars and stuff. Everyone likes Lamborghinis. Everyone likes Ferrari. Like, it'd be nice to have one, but like for me, for example, the Mustang, a bit different. Like, everyone has one. It's just because as a kid, I adored them. Like, it was my goal.
It's meaningful.
So then it was meaningful. Yeah. Whereas if it was like, oh, I want a nice car, I never would have worked for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think having a clear goal and some kind of reward associated to it, whatever that reward might be for you, I think that's really important, because that keeps you disciplined. And I think for me, what you mentioned earlier about having people around you that are playing a bigger game, I think that really helps with. It can either directly or indirectly give you the accountability. Like, you could have other people around you that are literally your buddies in accountability, making sure that you're doing the things you said you would, and vice versa. But even just by being around them, it will cause you to play a bigger game.
And also, I believe people are the next stage of goals after the materialistic things. When you get the materialistic thing, you've got them, and you're like, it wears off quite quickly. Yeah. But then when you can link it to, I actually want to take my family away, or I want to provide this for my kids, or I just want to go on a holiday with my friend, whatever it may be for you. When you bring other people in and someone else benefits, it does have a lot more of a pull. Like, it's a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah, I agree, for sure. For me, even it was just achieving a certain level of success in business, which meant that I was able to spend time around certain people. It was like, I need to achieve this in order to prove my worth, to be able to get around these people in the first place. And then, the fact is, this podcast is called the Empire Builders Podcast. So I think it's a fair assumption that we all want to build our business empires, whatever that means for you. Like, for me, one of the coolest things is getting to spend time around really cool, successful people. And I think that was a big driver certainly for me. I think it has been for you as well.
100%. Even, I know, talking about mastermind, even just leveling up to the next group, you're like, oh, I want to be around those people. They're doing this that I didn't even think was possible for me. So it's just, that's a simple example of it. But yeah, if you can get a goal that includes other people, I found that that's a much bigger draw.
Yeah,
but you don't get that at the start. I would never have believed you could have told me that 18 months ago.
Yeah, and I think everyone's on the journey. Yours was first gold car.
Yeah,
got that, and then went, oh, that's nice, but the novelty wears off quite quickly. Now what? And then it's more around the people and the experiences that you can have, and ultimately, I think it's a case of knowing yourself, being self-aware enough to decide what it is that's going to make the biggest difference for you. If people want to follow you on Instagram, as I already do, and you follow me back, which is great. If people want to follow you on Instagram and check out your content and learn more about how they can trade the stock market in less than 5 minutes a day, what is your Instagram handle?
It's at Ben Knight Investments.
At Ben Knight Investments. Jav will put that in the show notes. There might be a link or two we can share to resources as well that Ben's got that can help and support. So Ben Knight, thanks for joining me on Empire Builders. Jav, thanks for setting up the equipment at a moment's notice. Appreciate you, because we'd not told Jav that we were doing this interview. So I was like, hey, where's all the stuff? Need setting it up. So thanks, Jav. Appreciate you as always. And of course, those that are watching on YouTube, listening to the podcast, would appreciate you sharing the love. Any questions you got, pop them in the comments on YouTube. And we'd really appreciate you giving us a little review as well on your favourite podcast platform. Ben Knight, thanks for joining us.
Cheers for having me.
Cheers.